Let's have a chat. Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00, and we've got a lot to talk about, haven't we? There's been a lot going on. It's typical that I would release a video just last night in that I say, and I quote, the inevitable Halo Infinite campaign DLC that is on its way. And no more than a couple of hours later, it's trending on Twitter that Microsoft are laying off 10,000 people, 60 of which are from 343 Industries. News is still coming out. There's been no formal statement released by 343 Industries about this situation. As far as we can make of it, and obviously this is still subject to change based on new information as it comes out, but the last time I checked, 60 full-time employees have been laid off. All agency workers or contractor workers have been told their contracts are not being renewed, so that could push the total amount of people being basically shifted out of 343 Industries to well over 100. And on top of this, Joe Staten is leaving as creative lead of Halo Infinite and is returning to his position in Xbox Publishing. Now, that doesn't come as an immense surprise. It's not unexpected. It was always a temporary position for Joe. However, I don't think many of us were expecting him to leave while simultaneously 60 people were booted from the company, 10,000 people from across Microsoft are losing their jobs, all agency workers and contractors are being shifted from 343 Industries, and there's a employment hiatus over the company at the moment, right as we move into a new year. That's a little less expected. But that's the news. That's what's going on out there right now. It's a ridiculous situation to wake up to. Well, truth be told, I found this information out obviously last night, right as my most recent video was going live, typically. And I just needed time to process it. I didn't engage with anything. I had some other issues that needed my attention at that point anyway. But I just needed time to process it. This is a difficult time, and my heart goes out to those people that have basically just had their livelihoods evaporate from under them. It's an awful situation, and I hope beyond all hope that they hit the ground running and can move almost seamlessly into other newer journeys, and they're not left hanging for too long. That being said, I have some legitimate concerns as a content creator, as Installation 00 is my primary income. There has been a gradually waning interest in Halo for a long time. Many of the other content creators have attested to this. I've spoken to some of the other content creators on a personal level to see what they think of this situation, and it's not good. It is not good. And I've spoken previously to more of the content creators in regards to last year just kind of being a tread water kind of year, where there was no real growth for channels. There was no real interest. That we had like a peak at the start of the year when Halo Infinite was actually launched, but that bottomed out very rapidly, and it's coasted since, and that's not great. That's really not great, especially for a franchise as established as Halo is. So there are concerns for me, because this is my primary income. The Installation 00 channel is my primary income. I'm not devoid of sense. I've diversified and started that ball rolling. The 00 Multiverse, formerly the Lawcore Multiverse, will now cover a much larger plethora of games. That includes Destiny, that includes Warhammer, that includes God of War, alongside my all-time favourites like Mass Effect, Deus Ex, and Anthem and other games to that effect. Games that I've grown up with, that I have a passion for. And of course, we're expecting new installations of many of those games in the next 2, 3, and 4 years. So there's a wealth of lore and growth potential there, which is great. And of course, aside from the 00 Multiverse, I've got the 00 Lounge, where I sit down in this kind of context with a camera, or I record our Discord discussions that we have on a weekly, semi-weekly basis. And then on the side of that, I've got Ambient Wonders, which is just kind of the ambience of different levels. At the moment, just focused at Halo, but that will also diversify and include other games as well. So I'm not completely devoid of sense. I've already began the process of diversifying, but it still doesn't take away the sting that Installation 00 is my primary income, and I love Halo. And it seems like, judging from how the community are responding, it feels like Halo's in its death throes. And that's awful. That is awful to be witnessing. As a fan of the franchise from the beginning. I was there in 2001. And even worse, as a content creator who my livelihood now rides upon it. It's awful. It's awful to see the community hurting the way that it is, to see Halo suffering the way that it is, and to think that the awesome people behind the scenes who built Halo are just having their livelihoods whipped out from beneath them. And awful. That being said, I'm not really here to discuss my own woes. I'm not really here to discuss who's to blame and point fingers and try to microanalyze all of what's going on behind the scenes. That's not really what I'm here to do today. What I'm here to do is to focus on what happens next, or what should happen next, and give my own opinion on what course should be taken from now. And I've seen loads of opinions out there about what needs to happen next, but this is my 2 cents for what it's worth. First and foremost, 343 need to formally respond to this situation. They need to make an announcement, a public announcement, to address this and gain some degree of trust from the community. I mean, the trust has been fractured so many times now. I'm not entirely sure the community are even fully behind 343 anymore to any great degree, which is not good in and of itself. But that's the first thing that needs to happen. This needs to be formally, professionally acknowledged. That may have already happened at the time of this recording. I don't know. I'm trying to key in as often as I can, and I'll update as things go if you guys feel it's necessary. Like I said, this isn't my normal content format. I don't normally do this. I'm weighing in on this because it's significant enough and worrying enough that I feel I need to weigh in. So after 343 acknowledge this situation, what then? It's abundantly clear that the Slipspace engine is flawed. At best. At worst, it's broken. It took 6 years and $500 million to get Halo Infinite onto the shelves. And although the winter updates have fixed a large plethora of the issues, Halo Infinite shipped in the state that it did, that we're all fully familiar with. And I despair that if Halo is legitimately in its death throes, because if they plan on making new games as the studio is at the moment, good luck. You've just fired. I've heard figures. You've just fired between 10 and 20% of your workforce from 343 Industries. Good luck producing a new game with 10 to 20% fewer hands on deck. And I despair that if that's the situation, if that means Halo Infinite, in that circumstance, Halo Infinite would be the last edition, the last game of the Halo franchise. And that's no way for it to go out. That is no way for the Halo Infinite, for the Halo franchise, sorry, to go out with Halo Infinite. I mean, it was good. I enjoyed the campaign. It didn't really do much. It didn't really go very far. It introduced a new faction, and there's minute amounts of lore surrounding the Endless. But aside from that, what have we learned? What's been added to the journey? Not a lot. So, what needs to happen is 343 Industries, in my opinion, 343 Industries now needs to formally state they are becoming a publisher rather than a dedicated game studio. There's still obviously the people on board that are working on the multiplayer side of things. Most of the people that were fired were obviously from the single player campaign side. That basically means that the campaign DLC is stalled at best, at worst cancelled outright. There's still people on board on the multiplayer side making sure that seasonality it continues for Halo Infinite, but they now need to really announce that 343 are becoming a games publisher, and multiple companies, Certain Affinity for example, are now being brought in underneath to create new games, new experiences in the Halo universe that will then be published through 343 Industries. And then that way, that would be great, because then we can have a huge diversification in types of content that's out there. In theory, if you have a half dozen companies all creating different content and different games and things like that for the Halo franchise, in theory you could have a new game every year. We could have Certain Affinity do a new campaign story with the Chief. You could bring on board the guys who did Sins of the Prophet mods and make it like a space battle style game. You could bring on board some of the people who have made some of the mods and like Installation 01 and things like that to make other new experiences. And really, if you look at the lore, I mean, look at the books. I mean, there is a wealth of lore and canon to call upon. Why aren't we exploring new stories? We now have, if this is what happens, this can then be explored. We can then get new games exploring new sections of the Halo universe. We could have a spin-off game that looks at the ancient human era when they were fighting against the Forerunners. We could have a new game come out about the insurrection. We could have a new game come out, Contact Harvest, the beginning of the Human Covenant War. We could have a game for Onyx. Onyx would be a great campaign, as well as expanding the current narrative. We could have new Halo Wars, because Halo Wars has been abandoned. Halo Wars 1, fantastic. Halo Wars 2, great continuation, and built the potential for Halo Wars 3 and onwards into the future with a whole new storyline. Ended. But it could be revived. So what needs to happen now, 343 need to acknowledge this situation formally. They may have already. Again, I'm going to keep up to date and I'll let you know if you want me to. Then they need to acknowledge that now's the time to become a publisher. And then bring in a half dozen companies that publish new Halo IPs through 343 Industries, and they do not use the Slip Space engine. In fact, I would prefer it if they use something like the Unreal Engine. Something that's an established engine, because if the engine's already done, if the engine's already established, works, all you then have to really do from a technical standpoint is figure out the narrative, the story you want to tell, build the assets, import them, and start constructing the world. That may be an oversimplification, but as a whole, once the engine's out of the way, once the engine's up and running, surely that's what comes next. And the Slip Space engine has its issues. It's abundantly clear it has its issues. We can see that as players. So we've got an awful situation to be confronted with. We've got people losing their jobs, their livelihoods being pulled out from beneath them. Now's the time for clear, decisive action. It's been stated in some press releases that Microsoft are looking at restructuring things, and this is obviously in the face of a potential recession as well, so that's why they're trying to downscale just to save the company from hemorrhaging money. But if that was the intention from the get-go, why buy out Bethesda and Activision and God knows what other companies they factored into the Xbox brand and into the Microsoft brand, if literally a year later you were going to go, oh, by the way, we're firing 10,000 of you. I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that side of things. I'm going to stick to my guns here. I'm worried as a content creator and as a fan of Halo, because I hate seeing Halo in this state. I really hate seeing Halo in this state, and I hate beyond all words seeing the community hurting the way that it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Halo community has always been a little acidic within itself, but we at least all existed under the common understanding that Halo is an awesome franchise, an awesome game, an awesome story. And now it doesn't feel like we even have that. So I'm concerned, deeply concerned, as a content creator and as a fan. I'm deeply, deeply upset and concerned for the people who have lost their jobs. And like I said, I hope they move quickly and swiftly into new companies and new adventures. Hell, even if they moved into, if that is the plan, these half a dozen companies that are then going to produce Halo content going into the future. And again, this is just my speculation. This is not based on any real hard facts or information. But I feel like this is what needs to happen now, because this has been mishandled for too long, far too long, and I think it's at a point now where the community's trust has been fractured so much, so often, that I don't think it's reparable. The truth of the matter is that it's it's past reconciliation. The truth of the matter is it's past reconciliation. And I think what needs to happen now is 343 need to acknowledge that, make a formal statement about what's going on, and in my opinion, it's time to become a publisher and to make way for other companies to build onto the Halo franchise, because this current recipe isn't working. It's just not. And it's plain for anyone to see. It's awful. It's a real shame. It is a real shame. I wish I could bring more positive and optimistic news, but this is my take on the situation. Let's get a dialogue started in the comments, because I'd really like to hear your opinions, whether you think I'm right on the money in this particular regard, if this is what should happen next, if it shouldn't, why, what else do you think should happen. I want to start a dialogue, and I want to get a feel for what the community, what you guys are feeling like. Awful. I'm going to go finish my coffee. Take it easy, everyone, and find peace in the domain. Thanks for watching. If you're new here and liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button and hit the subscribe button while you're at it so you don't miss my future uploads. Links are in the description to get connected and jump into the Discord community with me, and if you really love the content I'm making, consider supporting the channel over on Patreon for tons of awesome perks. Pop your comments down below if you have an idea of what I should cover next, and hang around for the end of the video for other suggested videos you might be interested in. Huge shoutouts to my patrons: Spartan10148, the Metarch of my installation, Falcon, Prophet, Phantom, Thomas, Mikhail, and Irrefutable Justice, my monitors, Andrew, Cameron, Darian, Flaming Halo, Madness, Masked Owl, Michael, Spartan0137, The Cave Potato, Uwu Master, and Wolf Eclipse, my sub-monitors, my growing fleet of Strato Sentinels, my ever-vigilant Enforcers, and all the other awesome patrons that are helping to support the channel in a big way. Huge shout out to Todd Morrison for keeping the installation powered with that glorious vacuum energy. Much love to you all. Take it easy, everyone, and find peace in the domain.